2 weeks ago, after finishing my shift at my job, I went to the gym to swim laps. As I was showering after my workout, I saw a naked male in the women's locker room. I immediately went back into the shower, terrified, and hid behind their flimsy excuse for a curtain until he was gone. I ran into a bathroom stall to change as quickly as I could, organizing my thoughts to share with the people at the front desk. As I did so, I could only think of my 5-year-old sister, who I bring to this gym during the summer to enjoy their water slides.
Apparently, in California, it is considered both legal and normal for a grown man to expose his penis to a young girl. And if you question this, you're the bigot. Sounds completely sane, right? Well, let's talk about it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cojones. Today's story comes out of a suburb near San Diego, California, where a 17-year-old girl named Rebecca Phillips talks about how, while she was at the YMCA after she finished swimming, she went into the locker room to change, and what did she find? Now, her being a female, you would assume that she would find other females in the locker room. No. What she found was a grown man in the locker room with his penis completely out, just walking around like it was normal. And this 17-year-old girl was taken aback. She felt afraid, and she decided that she was going to hide until the grown man decided to leave. Now, if you ever needed a story to kind of highlight how society is going down a very dark path that I'm not sure we can recover from, this story is a great one to use. This is a great example here of the societal decline that we're currently living through. Now, in reading the story and hearing her speak, which, by the way, her address to city council was a pretty powerful speech. You should definitely check it out for yourself. It conjured up a lot of really strong opinions and emotions in me that I'm about to get into right now. The first point that I want to make is that we as a society have 100% failed this young girl in particular, and every other girl that's just like her. We have failed her. Whether it's allowing grown men to use female locker rooms, whether it's allowing boys to play girl sports, or any other story that you could pick from, we as a society have failed this young girl. You see, because I remember a time when the YMCA was actually this pillar in our society of family friendly fun, a place where you could go, where there were summer camps and different activities and programs for kids to participate in. And that same organization has somehow evolved into this monster, into this organization that would allow a grown man to walk around naked in the female locker room, where there are minors, young girls, walking around using the same facilities. Now, I'm old enough to remember when exposing yourself to anyone, especially a minor, was considered not only heinous, but a crime that would land you on the sex offender registry. Now, in California, the most you'll get is gaslit by the organization if you call it out and say, this is kind of weird and I don't feel safe. So we as a society have 100% failed this child in every single way. The YMCA isn't an organization that I would ever give my business to ever again for many reasons, but this story right here being the nail in the coffin. The second point that I want to make is that as a society, I believe we have a responsibility to protect women and children, and we are failing at this job. Children in particular, especially this young girl, and honestly, it broke my heart listening to her address to city council because I can almost see the faces of the council member that they just don't care and they don't get it. But as a society, we have a responsibility to protect this girl and all women and children. Now, when she brought this up, what did the director of membership say to her? It's like, well, she's perfectly safe. The only people who aren't allowed to use the female locker rooms are people who are on the sex offender registry. Now, that raises a couple questions right off the bat. A couple things come to mind. Number one, not every sex offender is on the list. Only the ones that have been caught. There are plenty of gross, heinous individuals doing terrible things out there who haven't been caught yet. And guess what? They're not on the list. They are not on the list. So you could easily have one of those individuals taking advantage of this law that was passed in 2022 in California that allows people who identify as a different gender to use the restroom that corresponds with the gender that they identify as. They could use this law as a way to prey on children. And I'm sure, and we've seen stories that that definitely verify this claim, there are people out there taking advantage of these laws and taking advantage of the situation. So just not every sex offender is on the list, only the ones who have been caught. The second thing that I would say to this point is that every sex offender who's currently on the list was at one point not on the list, right? So again, whether or not their name shows up on some arbitrary list that they did some time for committing a sex related crime, to me is completely irrelevant. It is completely irrelevant. You're only talking about the people who actually got caught and went to jail. You're not talking about the people who have an inclination of doing these things or who haven't been caught. And what's happening right now is that we are creating a perfect storm. We are creating the conditions for these women and children to be exploited, to be preyed upon by men, by grown men. We are placing this is absolutely insane. We we are placing the feelings of a grown man over the safety of women and children. And that to me is completely backwards. We as a society have a responsibility to protect our women and children. And the fact that we are allowing men in female locker rooms and then we're telling women when they speak out against this, you're a part of the problem, you are a bigot, you need to change the way you think, to me is gross. It is gross. The last point I want to make here is you and I have a responsibility to speak out against these topics, to speak out against these ideologies and these policies that put women and children at risk. These ideologies and these policies that are just not right or not fair. We have a responsibility to do that. I remember for a long time, LGBTQ issues were ones that I tried to avoid in making content because I knew it. It's dangerous, right? People are gonna come for you. But the truth of the matter is that we are at war. If you disagree with these things, we are 100% at war with these ideologies. And I completely disagree with the notion that men can be women and women can be men. I disagree. I believe that there are two genders. I am a father of three. I have two sons and a daughter. And I can tell you that my sons are very different than my daughter, and my daughter is very different than my sons. I know that for a fact. I have raised them and I have seen them. And I can tell you right now that if this were my daughter and a grown man exposed himself to her at the YMCA, our population might go down by one. So we must join the fight and speak out against these ideologies that are poisoning our society and that are harming our children. You have to have the courage to stand up for what you believe. And for me, it's crazy that we would completely try to erase what a woman is. We would completely, to the point that we can't even define it. We can't even define it. See, to me, I may be conservative and, I have a beautiful wife and I have an amazing family, but my, I love my wife so much. And honestly, I could tell you that uh, she is amazing in all the ways that I am not. And that's why this works, right? Is because I get to fulfill the roles. I get to step into those roles that she can't, and she steps into the roles that I can't. And that is the beauty. That is the beauty of having men and women. But when we live in a time and when we live in a society where these definitions no longer matter and we can go ahead and just start redefining terms, everything becomes very hazy, and that's when things get dangerous. And now we are seeing cases more and more every single week where we are putting the feelings of grown men over the safety of young children. It's time for everybody to stand up. If you disagree with this stuff, you have to stand up and you have to speak out against it. Not everybody believes in gender being a social construct and there being a spectrum, and not everybody believes that. I believe that God created man and woman. Those are my beliefs, and those are the beliefs that I live by. And my beliefs are no less valid than somebody who believes that there are infinite numbers of genders. And I'm going to stand up and fight for what I believe. And I'm going to stand up and try to protect not only my children, but the children in my community. because that's important and that matters. We need to try to preserve the innocence of our children. And I don't think that letting men walk around with their penises hanging out in a female locker room at the YMCA, where there could easily be a 17-year-old, a 5-year-old, a mother with infants, I don't think that letting men walk around in those places is the way we protect our children. So, nah, I'm not cool with it. Sorry, I'm not an ally and I'll never be. I think that in the United States of America, you have absolutely every right to live your life as you see fit. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you. But the second you try to encroach on the rights, the privacy, the security of other people who have those same rights as you, who also make up a larger portion of the population, we're talking about women as opposed to people who think that they're another gender, right? Why are we catering to a minority here? To such a small demographic at the risk, at the expense of our women and children. Like, what are we actually doing right now? So my heart breaks for Rebecca Phillips. Honestly, unfortunately, I think that nothing is going to change in the state of California. I think that like Sodom and Gomorrah before her, I think California is headed towards complete decline and collapse. And in my opinion, you get what you vote for. And for so long, you voted for these policies, and now even people who are as far left as you can get are starting to feel a sting, and they realize we may have made a terrible mistake. So I feel awful for the children like Rebecca Phillips who are having to deal with the consequences of adults who voted the wrong way, of adults who decided that they were going to buy into a lie at the expense of their children. So there you have it, folks. My thoughts on a young girl weeping before city council because a grown man was in the locker room walking around with his penis, and everybody in city council thought that was perfectly normal. It's a clown world, I'll tell you. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all of that. I appreciate your support, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.